And it is the Carrie Harrison Files. Welcome. So glad you're here with me today. I love hanging out with you. You know, there was some time where I was getting burnt out on everything, but I'll tell you, I just feel like a cockeyed Paul Revere these days. If we don't show up, it doesn't get out. Everything goes away, everything collapses. And we're going to talk a bit about collapsing today because what could be more fun? Before we start, you need to know where everything happening today actually came from that we're going to talk about because it didn't come from Congress, the state of the world as we know it, the state of politics that we know it happening right now. It didn't come from a party platform or some late night fever dream. It came from YouTube. Yep, the MAGA movement, everything came from YouTube. You're going to want to pay close attention to this because it's the kind of cool school you're only going to get here on the Carrie Harrison File. We're live streaming, by the way, on YouTube, Substack. Simply Google Carrie Harrison, Cary. I know I pronounce it Carrie because I'm from Chicago originally. If I were from, say, New Jersey, I would say Carrie. But that's really hard for a Midwestern mouth. So, but it's spelled Cary like Cary Grant. Carrie Harrison YouTube, Carrie Harrison Substack. And then you can watch. Plus, you'll be able to see the guests later, and you'll be able to see the voices of the callers. Wrap your head around that. So back to what I'm saying. Back in the early 2020s, roughly 2020 to 2022, a cluster of long-form YouTube lectures and podcasts started circulating. And they circulated calmly and confidently, and they argued that democracy was obsolete. Democracy wasn't corrupt. It wasn't misguided. It was obsolete. That the world, and this is according to this YouTube video, had become too complex. It had become too fast, too dangerous for consent. And what nations needed instead was order, national coordination, elite planning, and discipline without debate. And they even gave it a name, which some of you of a certain age, or if you have a historical bent or even a little bit of education, this is going to ping your radar. The name they gave it was American National Socialism. Oh. Not socialism for workers, not equality, socialism for order. Yeah, this is socialism. Sort of Soviet flavored, sort of Germany flavored, German war flavored, but with a very modern twist. And these weren't fringe YouTube screamers. They were hours long presentations with neutral lighting, academic tone, and managerial ambition. And they treated politics as an engineering problem and citizens as variables. Democracy was reframed as noise. Well, it kind of is. It's noisy. This side wants an apple, this side wants an orange. And then somewhere in the middle, you end up with a kumquat, which is what we have in the White House right now. Rights were viewed as inefficiencies, participation as sentimental clutter. And the solution, according to them, was always the same: central coordination, insulated from the public, and justified by, ready? Crisis. Whatever happens, put crisis in the middle, and you can justify absolutely anything. And just know, these weren't single videos or a lone crank. They were networked ideologies. They were done by thinkers, by funders, by podcasters, by policy lobbyists, cross-posting, cross-referencing, and always refining the pitch. And I've shared with you before that I worked at Home Shopping once upon a time. I know, you promised not to tell anyone, but all we ever did was refine the pitch. Just refine the pitch. I mean, it was horrific, but it worked. So in these videos, over time, the arguments hardened. The language got cleaned up, and the destination stayed fixed. That democracy was messy and inefficient, that people were just too stupid to be able to self-guide. Hey, it's like the Monroe Doctrine, isn't it? That brown people are just too stupid to be able to govern all of their own individual sovereign countries in Latin America, so we're just going to come in and manage it. By the way, we're going to manage their oil and minerals and maybe colonize them while they're at it. Monroe Doctrine. Same thinking, but for here at home. And these videos became the template of the rehearsal space where ideas that were too naked for policy became normalized, softened, stress test. And by the time similar language showed up in politics, which it has, finance and tech, and the public had already heard it. And we were used to it. The shock was gone. The surrender was already rehearsed. So when you hear calls for coordination, stability, capacity, and hard choices, understand that you're hearing YouTube ideas that are now grown up and dressed for work and walking right into power. And that's the origin story of how we got to where we are today, as I paused and have a sip of coffee. Aren't you glad that you get to know that I'm doing that as opposed to dead air and a gulping noise where you're like, what is that? By the way, next week, I'm going to do an extraordinary one-time hour. I'm going to break down exactly how the Third Reich invented this that we're talking about, that we're going to talk about, how they packaged it, and how they delivered it to the tune of hemispheric collapse for the sake of the largest bank robbery in human history up to that point. And when the Fuhrer wrote Mein Kampf, he actually became a millionaire president by forcing it to become a bestseller. Maybe like a documentary. And like today, the Third Reich was nothing more than a magnificent heist of gold, of jewelry, of artwork, science, the occult, money, housing, real estate, nations, and a lot of human beings that said no, and they had to go away. I think you get the point. So you don't want to miss next week. I've been writing it for weeks and weeks and weeks, and I'm super jazzed to actually put it together. And it's going to be in my upcoming book that I've shared with you, a MAGA history of the United States. But MAGA means making academia great again. Since my ancestor, Abraham Lincoln, you're from somewhere, you're going to have ancestors, created the Department of Education formally. And that was the first thing to go, wasn't it? About 6-7 months ago. Get rid of education. Why? Because critical thinking and people knowing what's going on really, really confutes the plot of the play, which is what we're talking about now. Don't forget, you can sign up for our newsletter at carrieharrison.com or goharrison.com if that's easier. And there you're going to get a transcript of this entire show, plus access to clips and stuff that we simply no longer can do on the radio, as you know. And that's our newsletter at carrieharrison.com. So let's begin where the wreckage is freshest and the intent is easiest to miss. The newly released Epstein files. Not because they reveal some occult master plan, but because they show coldly, bureaucratically, how a system processes damage that it doesn't intend to fix. Ooh, read them, and you don't see urgency. You see containment. You see allegations logged. You see credibility quietly hedged, corroboration requested, and never pursued with vigor. The file closes not with justice, but with administrative relief. Not that nothing happened, but nothing actionable will happen. That distinction is everything. Not that nothing happened, but that nothing actionable will happen. There it is. That's the heartbeat of everything right now, so that you don't think, well, why aren't they following the law? Why aren't they? Because that is how the law is being interpreted at the moment. Because what those files actually document is a skill that the modern system has perfected. How to survive scandal without changing structure. How to absorb horror, manage liability, and keep walking. This is not a failure. This is training. God, it's cynical. It's dystopic. I know. But you need to know what's happening so you can navigate it and not just be gobsmacked clutching your pearls over and over again, shocked like I just can't believe it. It's a plan. I mean, what was it? 2 years ago almost, we were talking about Project 2025 when no one had really heard of it yet. It's in there. It's actually articulated into reality now. So don't forget, this is like bragging stuff for people. And that's why Epstein matters. Not as a myth, not as a mascot, but as proof of exemption, proof that there exists a tier where rules are optional, where consequences are negotiable, and where bodies are instrumental. Even Epstein's most grotesque and documented fascinations, his talk of heredity seeding, where he would impregnate hundreds of these hostage girls in order to see the world with improved humans. That would be humans with his DNA. Brilliant, stable geniuses, amazingly complex. We won't get into the moral or anything, but just lots more humans with his DNA. And these ideas were never treated as alarms when everyone knew about it. By the way, Mr. Musk has already done that, hasn't he? With a number of women, seeding humanity.
How'd it happen?
She showed up dead on arrival.
This never gets easier.
It does when you call CarShield before your car breaks down. Look at these prices. The camshaft, transmission, engine.
Don't people know? A plan through CarShield could protect up to 5,000 parts and systems.
You hate to see it.
An out-of-warranty car is going to break down eventually.
Right, which is why they need a plan through CarShield.
Best of all, you'll get access to CarShield's concierge service, who can even help you find a mechanic near you.
They're notifying the family.
Poor guy. He doesn't even know what's coming.
Another victim of senselessly expensive repair bills. Can't save them all.
But we can keep trying. Didn't have to end this way. If he'd have just called CarShield before his car broke down.
Exactly.
CarShield has an A rating with the Better Business Bureau and was voted America's most trusted auto protection company. It's time to call CarShield now. Call 800-786-8390. 800-786-8390. Call 800-786-8390.
With Epstein, these were just simply treated as eccentricities, because when you have $1 billion, you're eccentric. If you're poor and start boinking a bunch of women to create babies on the system, you're not considered eccentric. You're considered imprisoned. It's just, it's rich man noise, right? Not because the ideas are harmless, but because the system had already decided who mattered. Now, you're not ignorant. You've known this for your whole lifetime. Dr. King talked about this. Everyone has talked about this. But here it is in the sharpest blade that we've ever lived through, right here, right now. And this is where the through line becomes visible. Carrie Harrison, by the way, going to get to that. This is the Carrie Harrison Files live streaming on YouTube, live streaming on Substack. Simply Google Carrie Harrison YouTube or Substack, or Go Harrison YouTube and Substack, and there you can be able to watch this live video stream. Plus, see our upcoming guest, who has been able to take sort of the wretched modern technology and rebuild community out of it, which is something we're all longing for. And he's done it at the highest level. So he's a cool guy. He's in Chicago. I'm having more coffee. I'm putting down my coffee. I know 3 of you care. The rest like rolling your eyes. And you should. So back to where I was. Long before Silicon Valley, before dashboards, that's what it's called in technical language. Dashboards is where everything is just sort of on your computer screen. You push this, you toggle that. It's all like in a car. It's all right there, including your AI, including who you are, your whole life, APIs. The same impulse existed, but it wore a different uniform in the past. Classic German eugenics, that would be, creating Aryans by stripping away and murdering, millions of people that weren't Aryans and leaving only Aryans, and then crossbreeding what you thought were the best of the best. That's what this is with the Epstein file. It's eugenics, but with modern technology and twist. In the old days, classic German eugenics didn't begin with camps. It began with order. We're going to look at that next week, how exactly they pulled that off. The ultimate school for you, for me. When I read my stuff out loud, I learn. It's different. It's like somebody's telling you your own story, but it helps. It began with order, with classification, with the belief that society could be optimized if only the right inputs were elevated and the wrong ones managed. Compassion was inefficiency to the Germans. Equality was sentiment. Order above all, was virtue. We're hearing that today, aren't we? In the fake Doge thing. It's exactly the same thing, different words. And that ideology didn't die with them back then. It got modernized to now. It stopped talking about blood and started talking about data. It stopped saying purity and started saying performance. It stopped saying elimination and started saying eligibility. Same hierarchy, cleaner language. And today, it has a new and respectable name. Technocracy. Same thing. Technocracy claims that politics are engineering problems, that society should be run by experts insulated from the public. Insulated from the public. And here you thought your representatives were an extension of you. And here you thought, and here you thought. And those outcomes matter more than consent. Democracy in this frame isn't immoral, it's inefficient. Democracy is too loud, it's too slow, it's fussy, it's too emotional for this complex world. And the world isn't becoming complex, it has been made complex. I want you to think back 1 year ago. Were you like sitting around with a boiling stomach full of acid in a freak out mode, maybe let's say a year and a half ago? It was more or less stable. You could guess in 1 year what you generally might be doing, might not be doing, what your finances might or might not look like. Now, 5 minutes from now, you have no idea. There is no such thing as even planning for tomorrow. All of that manufactured and delivered. So we're being told that democracy is inefficient and too loud for this complex world, a world suddenly made complex. And here's the pivot that most people miss. Technocracy doesn't want to fix democracy. It wants to outgrow it and then replace it. I mean, we can say Orwell, we can say Huxley, and we would be saying the right names, wouldn't we? This is it. We're actually now living in it. When Orwell wrote, 1984 and 1948, he figured by 1984 it would be here. Well, it took another 40 years for technology to catch up, but here we are today. So to do that, the old system has to look irreparable. The old system of democracy, of freedom of speech, everything but the Second Amendment has to look like it cannot be repaired. It's too far gone. Everything is so out of whack. And it does feel like it, and it does look like it, but it's not. It's only declared that way. If you and I jumped on an island, 100 of us, one of us is going to start, cooking food, another one cutting hair, another one making shoes. We're going to end up with a culture, a society with trade. And then there's always one Dick Cheney in the room or one, who in the room, and they come in and they see opportunity. And that usually blows it up. So these things are short-lived, which is why the founding daddies always demanded eternal vigilance. Like, don't fall asleep because they'll steal the rug out from under you. And here we are, rugless, a lot of us. And this is where collapse enters, not as tragedy. And I haven't had anything to drink except coffee. Let me say that word again, tragedy. Tragedy. Not as tragedy, but as strategy. I wonder if I could say those, blend them into one word. It's kind of the same thing now. Functioning institutions interfere at this point because they create friction. That's their job. The reason we have laws is because most of us behave, but there's three that misbehave. So we have to create laws for those three people and their institutions, and they are there to create friction, barriers, obstacles to people who would do the rest of us harm. And we're told that those functioning institutions are interfering and creating friction for the order of things. Yeah, those institutions allow objection. They demand explanation. So now they are starved. They are delegitimized. They are scandalized. They are left to rot in public view. Courts lose trusts. Civil service loses capacity. Media drowns in noise. Nothing ever resolves. Everything just persists. And what people experience isn't confusion. It's fatigue, bone deep civic exhaustion. The political equivalent of being beaten unconscious by a pillow. Exhaust the public long enough, and they're not going to ask for justice. They're not going to ask for reform. They won't even ask who's lying. They'll accept anything that promises quiet. Not peace, but quiet. The hush you get when the arguments stop because no one has the energy left to argue anymore. And this is not an accident. This is the economic precondition. Germans learned it early. The Weimar Republic didn't fall in a coup. It collapsed under procedural exhaustion. Endless elections, endless coalitions, endless crises. Democracy didn't look evil. It looked tired. And by the end, people weren't dreaming of jackboots. They were dreaming of naps. They didn't ask for dictatorship. They asked for it to stop. And that's the moment that this model waits for. Not rage, but the sigh. Now we come to the modern incubator, the place where this demolition plan was first articulated plainly, without filters, before it learned to dress for policy. And it all started on YouTube. Carrie Harrison with you. This is the Carrie Harrison Files, live streaming on, and it's ironic, YouTube. Well, think of it as the Wizard of Oz. Are you a good witch or are you a bad witch? We're the education witch. We're here to, you and me together, to try to leak out whatever we can and find out where it all is and just share it with each other. Just like Tommy Jefferson said. He was thrilled about this concept here. Okay. You can Google Carrie Harrison YouTube or Substack to be able to watch the live video. Upcoming, we're going to be talking to a guy named Rick Hayhurst, and that's going to come up after your calls. We will be opening the phones, and he's found a way to turn a lot of this madness around in technology to use it for good and build community. You're going to want to know how to do that because we're all just drooling and chomping at the bit to find our fellows. And a lot of us have shrunk, hidden in the corners, sighing. Yeah, the rage is gone for a lot of people, sighing. And when the sighing happens is when the jackboots come in. So back to review how all this started. So you know what it looks like when you see it. Back in the early 2020s, long-form YouTube lectures and podcasts began arguing calmly, academically, that democracy was obsolete. They called it American National Socialism. Socialism for order, national coordination without voting. What are we being told right now? That voting needs to be nationalized. And you know, every state in the Constitution says the states handle the elections so that you don't have a king or a Putin that says 99% of people voted for me. There, it's done. That's why you have all the different states managing their own elections. So that doesn't happen. We're now being told they want to nationalize the vote. Then you can have Mr. Musk provide the software. We all vote electronically, and 99% of us want exactly what we don't want. But there's no way to find out, and just trust us, we're doing it for your own good. Discipline without democracy. Rights become conditional, like now. Participation is optional. Why vote at all? Order elevated above everything else. Freedom, consent, dignity. Because order, they argued in this YouTube video, was the prerequisite for survival. And you only need to survive if everything you know is being threatened. And everything you know right now, for many people, is being threatened. These videos on YouTube, they're not fringe rants, hours-long managerial rehearsals. It was the template. YouTube normalized the unthinkable. It softened surrender. It taught audiences to equate obedience with maturity. And you haven't been told this. This became later QAnon. QAnon became later MAGA. All of this was concocted by three people who were not necessarily rich, but came up with this idea of the world they wanted to live in. Our leader at the very top all became giant fans of this YouTube video, and an entire movement was made. Just like when Hitler wrote Mein Kampf, he was pissed. People had a resentment. So he wrote a whole book about it. Think of it as a YouTube video of the day. And there it is. The template is built. Now, every creep, every cockroach that has actual skill sets to turn this into reality show up. And now it becomes something real. It becomes policy. Hitler didn't do anything. He didn't shoot anybody. I don't think he ever even slapped anybody. Maybe even overgripped their hand. He had tea parties. That's about it. I mean, nothing. But he was the mastermind behind it. Same thing with these YouTube guys. Now it's become policy, and now they're alive, physical humans with a lot of talent executing this stuff. Executing. Interesting word, right? And the profit motive now can snap into focus. Because collapse of everything you know isn't just ideologically useful to put people in power, it's lucrative. Because during collapse, public assets devalue, regulation weakens, emergency contracts multiply, surveillance and coordination tools become necessary, and ownership consolidates quietly. I mean, how many of these late night talk shows are gone bye-bye? From Stephen Colbert to, all of them. Ownership consolidates quietly. The media, even the president, is now a stakeholder in CBS. Yeah. And the Kennedy Center, and looking to rename airports and freeways and Here it is. It's not a mistake. We're going to continue in just a tick. We're going to pause for a second. Carrie Harrison with you. This is the Carrie Harrison Files. When we come back, we are going to open up the phones because I want to get your take on destroying the commons, declaring the system obsolete, installing order as infrastructure, and then charging the rest of us rent. Is that how a society wakes up, governed by systems it never chose, rebuilt by people who never believed it should have had a choice at all? Seeing that democracy has been overthrown, but because it was demolished on purpose, piece by piece, until selling the replacement feels like mercy? What are you seeing? 818-985-KPFK, your Harrison hotline's 818-985-5735. What if the chaos isn't chaos at all? What if democracy is being exhausted on purpose so order can be installed and rented back to you? Today, Epstein, elite, exemption, technocracy, and the business model behind collapse. Is this governance or a protection racket? We're going to find out in just a tick.
This pussy grabs back. The Carrie Harrison Files. CarrieHarrison.com.
If you're over 62, living alone, and have received a collection letter from the IRS, stop what you're doing and listen. You need someone that you can lean on and that will fight for you.
Hi, I'm Matt Levy. I'm the founder of Ovation Tax Group. Every single week, we get thousands of American taxpayers the help that they deserve.
The IRS is now more aggressive and efficient than ever at tracking down people who owe back taxes and have unfiled returns. They could already be preparing to seize your assets, including your pension, 401k, home, or even your Social Security. But here's the good news. You may qualify for special relief programs, especially if you are older than 62. Call us now. We specialize in helping seniors get relief from IRS collections, wage garnishments, and bank levies. In many cases, we can get tax debt completely forgiven, or at least drastically reduced, with a great repayment plan.
Call us. We'll protect you, we'll fight for you, and we'll win for you. We're Ovation Tax Group.
Call now, 866-204-0972. 866-204-0972. 866-204-0972. And it is the Carrie Harrison Files, CarrieHarrison.com, C-A-R-Y. Live streaming right now on YouTube and Substack. Simply Google Carrie Harrison. Substack or YouTube. I know we're having some connection issues in LA. Our internet is going up and down. So if you catch the video feed, it is real time, unbroken. Hopefully the audio on radio is also not skittering around, but these things happen. This is why we have redundancies, except in politics. So we're opening up the lines here. 818-985-KPFK. Those are your Harrison hotlines, 818-985-5735. We're drawing the line because it's time to stop pretending that this is incompetence. It's so easy to imagine the clown cars, buffoonery happening left and right. This is so well organized and so exquisitely well executed. It just looks ridiculous. But even better, it makes it more efficient. Bad luck or history happening to us. This is demolition for profit. That's what you're experiencing. Not collapse as tragedy. Collapse as strategy. Break the system, drain the trust, exhaust the public, then step over the rubble, pick through the pieces, and charge rent on what's left. So don't call in and tell me things feel broken. That's obvious. Your Harrison hotlines, 818-985-KPFK, 818-985-5735. Don't call in to tell me democracy is messy. That's the point. And don't call in to say both sides, because wrecking the house and selling the salvage isn't a bipartisan mood. It's a business plan. And here's what I want to hear you answer out loud on the phone. At what point does order stop being governance and start being a protection racket? If you believe the system is being deliberately run into the ground so a smaller group can rebuild it to their advantage, call in and say it plainly. If you think this is all accidental, just bad leadership, bad luck, call in and explain why the same people always seem perfectly positioned to profit from the damage. And if you think democracy is obsolete and really should be replaced by experts, by planners and dashboards, call in and tell us who owns those dashboards and how we remove them when they fail. And if you still believe the noise of democracy is worth more than the quiet of managed obedience, call in and defend it, because silence is exactly what this model depends on. And this isn't an event line, it's a verdict line. Demolition for profit, yes or no? Order as mercy or order as control. Your Harrison hotlines are open, 818-985-KPFK, 818-985-5735. Pick a side, pick up the phone. Let's go to Steve from Venice. You're on the Carrie Harrison Files. Welcome.
Yeah, hey, thanks for being there. Couple quick things. I'm sure no one has missed a short form of American National Socialism. I believe it's Nazi. Isn't that where Nazi comes from? National Socialism.
Yes, the Nationalarbeiters, national workers. So they used every key word that means something. Christian, workers, socialism, like what's not to love? Throw in a little Jesus, little, maybe some Pop-Tarts. We're good. So yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah, and then the other thing would be I put it on the level of Social Security. What could use some nationalization is the natural resources. I believe they're all privately owned, right, by for-profit corporations. So we would be able to get somewhere. It seems like to somehow nationalize the natural resources, oil, gas, mining, the whole deal, that kind of.
In a way, that's what's happening, Steve, except it wouldn't be nationalized by the people. It's just being nationalized by the people at the top. So they're buying up everything and it's being consolidated at the very top, which makes it harder for you and me to reach. So you take a look at Venezuela, which has the largest untapped oil reserves on Earth. It's crummy oil. It's kind of like the tar sands up in northern Canada. But oil is oil, even though we shouldn't be burning this stuff because, how many Category 5 hurricanes can you handle every summer? There were only 3 this year in the Caribbean. 3? You used to go 10 years without even one Category 5. Like they're looking at making Category 6, except it doesn't matter over 160 miles an hour. I'm only laughing because what else can I do? So this is kind of the trajectory, the idea of burning more oil. Cuba has the largest untapped nickel mine. It was, I think, last tapped in around 1946, but it's a giant nickel mine. Suddenly, we're going after Cuba. Why? Because they have something. You don't go after places that have nothing. You don't go to the middle of a desert unless there's oil under the sand, because who cares? So in many ways, what you're saying is already happened. It just will be privately owned, except that your government is everything. So therefore, you can be told you are the government. This is the nature of propaganda. Excellent call. I thank you so much, my friend. 818-985-KPFK. Those are your Harrison hotlines, 818-985-5735. Let's go next to Susan from Los Angeles. You're on the Carrie Harrison Files. Welcome. We're going to bring up Susan now. Renee, if you would.
Right here. Can you hear me?
Hi, Susan.
Yes, my name is Susan. I really appreciate your station, and I thank you for offering me to take my call.
Glad you're here. Go ahead. It's your airtime.
Yeah, my point. We talk about it at work, and we're back and forth, and it's just simple. Capitalism eats itself. We're in the situation because a lot of people are in the situation. Everybody wants to change, but can we stop going to work and afford to stop and do it? And no, we can't. So we're all kind of in this spinning wheel, and until we come together and actually have what we protest and not protest until we get what we want, that is not going to change. But we can't afford to keep on protesting every day because how are we going to have the food we eat? How are we going to have what we need? We're in a whole structural system, and the Constitution doesn't hold accountable like how the civil laws hold accountable. You do something wrong, you go to jail. You do something in politics, they get a new one.
Yeah, the founding fathers never envisioned this, and they created a cure for everything, that the courts would handle it, but they never envisioned someone having complete disinterest in the courts or just flipping the bird at the courts and going ahead anyway. They never envisioned it. They really thought they came up with and it was bulletproof for the last 250 years, more or less. But this is something new and completely deranged. When you're actually able to fill the courts with your own passengers, with your own people, then they give you the thumbs up and they rubber stamp it. So interestingly enough, politicians say in Europe, they don't have term limits the same way we do. So they're in there for 30 years. They do something really bad. They've got 29 more years of the public absolutely beating them to death and humiliating them. And it's so horrific. Whereas you could just leave 2 years from now in the US with a bag of gold and, all fair. So it has a different model. When people pour into the town square, it really has an effect on a sitting politician. here we've created on purpose these term limits, which we think are really a great idea, except that this is what happens. So you can put people in, you can plan them, place them like employees, and when they suck, you get a new one that's even worse. So we have a lot of rethinking to do, but I like your idea of community, because that is the solution. It always has been. When enough people don't like something, you get change. I'll give you an example. I did not mean to go on a long form rant here, but you brought something up so important, Susan. If you'll remember 10 years ago, Raisin Bran, Kellogg's and Post, put a bright yellow banner at the top of the box, contains no high fructose corn syrup. And the reason they did that was the public started to hear about high fructose corn syrup. Didn't know what it was, really, but just knew it was bad somehow. They didn't know that it can cause cirrhosis of the liver. It totally accelerates type 2 diabetes. I mean, it's wretched stuff. It's like sugar on steroids, and it does to the body what massive, intense amounts of sugar would do in such a concentrated form. So it's, shall we say, bigly badly for you. Yes, you don't want it. And because the public didn't know, it only took 15%, 15% of the public to say, I don't know. And it was enough to affect the margins of these giant corporations to pull high fructose corn syrup from their Raisin Bran, from their cereals. So the good news is it does not take 51%. This is not a math equation. It takes only 15% to change everything. And because most people don't even vote, there cannot be change. So the only cure, assuming the midterms are still going to happen, and it looks like they are, the only cure is to do the old-fashioned thing and start beating on doors and get Jennifer, Jason, Jared, everyone who's like 21 or 19, where their name starts with a J, and get them to vote. It's 5 whole minutes, but it's probably worth it if they want to have a future, air to breathe, employment, able to date without being surveilled, whatever their important issue is, it's all in the crosshairs. So beat on doors. It's old-fashioned cure that was imagined by the founding fathers, not as having disappeared, but having as a practical solution. Because we're one of the only places on earth where voting isn't mandatory. You have to vote in places like Australia. You have to, and they have a good life, but you have to, which means the idiots vote too, but people vote. So it actually, something happens. Here, it's so optional that the idea is never to vote, and it will somehow self-correct. And here we are in self-correction. Let's go next to Mark in San Pedro. You're on the Carrie Harrison Files. Welcome.
If you're over 62, living alone, and have received a collection letter from the IRS, stop what you're doing and listen. You need someone that you can lean on and that will fight for you.
Hi, I'm Matt Levy. I'm the founder of Ovation Tax Group. Every single week, we get thousands of American taxpayers the help that they deserve.
The IRS is now more aggressive and efficient than ever at tracking down people who owe back taxes and have unfiled returns. They could already be preparing to seize your assets, including your pension, 401k, home, or even your Social Security. But here's the good news. You may qualify for special relief programs, especially if you are older than 62. Call us now. We specialize in helping seniors get relief from IRS collections, wage garnishments, and bank levies. In many cases, we can get tax debt completely forgiven, or at least drastically reduced, with a great repayment plan.
Call us. We'll protect you, we'll fight for you, and we'll win for you. We're Ovation Tax Group.
Call now, 866-204-0972. 866-204-0972. 866-204-0972.
Thank you. I wanted to come back to the question of Cuba, which you raised, which is true, has a nickel mine, but it's primarily because Cuba adopted a socialist society and nationalized U.S. corporations when they refused to go along with unions and minimum wages and better working conditions in their workplaces. But there is a direct link between what is happening in Minnesota and the immunity that is given to these ICE terrorists and what the U.S. has done against Cuba, against Venezuela, against the global South, right, for decades. The 65-year-old blockade against Cuba is now at the point where Trump is saying there will be no oil given to Cuba. They are having blackouts of 12 hours a day that will shut down hospitals, that will shut down emergency care, that will shut down communications. And it is the most horrendous act of bestiality, of horror that the U.S. government has ever done, just because this country for 65 years has decided that they want socialism. My union, the Machinists Union, is very active in fighting against the blockade of Cuba, organizing educational activities. We're based out of Wilmington, and we have various activities and take delegations to Cuba. So I just urge people to look through the headlines about Cuba and try understanding that this is a country that has the right to self-determination.
You know, what an excellent point you bring up, Mark. And here's an interesting irony that just popped into my head. Cuba is a tiny place, but it's basically a concentration camp that's already built, and it's got the infrastructure of a concentration camp. Now you're doing what the Germans did. You start taking away the food, you take away the medicine, you take away the opportunity for the people stuck in the camp to actually live and survive. It is a camp. They have turned it into a giant Auschwitz. And with that, another irony is all of the nationalization of the properties in Cuba at the time were because all the sugar, or the balance of the sugar, was coming from Cuba. Back when we all on our American tables had a bowl of white sugar on the table to sprinkle on our cornflakes, sugar, 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 sugar. And that was the giant industry. And like anything, you know, the people that are enslaved start to realize that if Jose gets together with, Frida and so, and you can create a union and actually say, well, we want some kind of decent living conditions if we're standing in the hot sun sweating all day. And you end up having a collective bargaining thing, which is awesome for the quality of life, but the poor owners don't love it. And so you end up with this revolution. This is just part of it, of course. And here we are no longer using sugar the same way. So even if we were to reconvert Cuba into a sugar factory, the public is not eating sugar, so it wouldn't work. So now it has to be minerals or turn it into a base. Who's to say? But they know, and it's part of the plan, and again, published in Project 2025. In just a few minutes, we're going to go to Rick Hayhurst, who has found a way to take modern technology and all of this stuff we're talking about and convert it into high-level community using business leaders who are woke. Yeah, thousands of them. You don't know about them because it ain't on CNN, but they're out there, and he's found a way to put them all together, and we're going to kind of get a gist of how to reconnect with people. Let's go to a doctor from downtown LA. You're on the Carrie Harrison Files. Welcome.
Whoa, good morning, Carrie. Good to be here. I'd like to make 3 quick points on that. First of all, you're on the money about sugar. In fact, I know there's considerable research that shows that cancer literally lives on sugar. Anybody who wants to research it a little bit, can easily find videos by Dr. Thomas Seyfried, that's Seyfrid, about how cancer really has to do with basically things getting screwed up on the energy, or having to do with energy related to the mitochondria in the cells. Easy to find information about that. That's just my quick summary. Number 2, a lot of people don't seem to understand that the German Nazi Party was really the German, it's the German Socialist Workers' Party, but that's propaganda. Had nothing to do with socialism. That's just propaganda to protect a lot of people who might have, initially been attracted to socialism or communism. And number three, let's see, lost my train here. Let's see, Kansas, so.
Train of thought just derailed all over your mental tracks, like mine does.
Okay, you mentioned Thomas Jefferson. For many years, he was a favorite of mine, notwithstanding, the problem with Nancy Hemings, But over the recent years, I've come to see that there's quite a bit of evidence that Thomas Paine was the real author of the Declaration of Independence.
Yeah.
He wrote the initial document, which is much longer, and then Adams and particularly Jefferson changed a little bit, shortened and threw out things like condemning slavery. Oops, wait a minute, put that back in there. So that's something to keep in mind. It does seem that Thomas Paine was the primary author of the Declaration of Independence.
Well, yes, he was he had published that leaflet, sort of not a newspaper, but he had these incredibly incisive and brilliant opinions and analyses based on how people were feeling about England, and grew some gigantic testicles and became the voice of reason at the time. And they watched him and realized he was saying what nobody else would say. And so based a lot on him. He is still a superhero and a superstar. We're not taught much about him in school, but I'm glad you bring him up, because what a reminder. People can just look him up and start to bask like happy tea bags in the tea of how this guy thought and acted. So he's a great role model, and I really appreciate your call, my friend. Thank you so much. The doctor is right. I'm not a doctor, but to my understanding, I've done a fair amount of research also on sugar and cancer, and it thrives on it. So you'll find that if you are being treated for various different cancers, you're asked to cut the sugar entirely. And while many patients are not necessarily interested in the medical side of the why, like take 2 aspirin, okay, as opposed to what are the aspirin doing? Why am I taking them? What's the plot of the play? Not everyone cares about that, but people who do, you find out cause and effect. So minimizing your sugar not only helps your waistline, helps your blood sugar, helps your organs, but also does not invite cells to replicate at the speed of light, which is basically what cancer is as well. So a balanced diet, Mediterranean, something like that anyway. We're going to take a little jump here. I talked earlier about people that have found workarounds in the problem we have of all being separated and feeling alone. And I want to acknowledge a guy who I knew a bunch of years ago in Chicago and has fallen back in my life because he's done something really powerful. He's a senior leader with Provisors, which focuses on building trusted communities during uncertain and often fractured times. He's brought together high-level professionals with an emphasis on mindfulness, on service, and responsibility before self-promotion. He's known for his steady leadership and discretion. This guy, Rick Hayhurst, helps cultivate environments where experienced advisors support one another, not just to do better business, but to act with intention, with integrity. Imagine in 2026, integrity, usefulness, recognizing that real networking, especially now, is about showing up for others and strengthening the fabric that holds professional communities together. We're not all dissolving, but we got to have a higher purpose. And I want to welcome you, Rick Hayhurst, to the Carrie Harrison Files.
Thank you so much for having me. It's such a pleasure to be here.
Well, a pleasure having you. And as you just heard from what I claimed was what you're doing, it's true, isn't it? And why?
You know, it is true. And the why is so simple. It's always about just giving back. How do we give back to community? How do we create leaders who are always thinking about that go-giver mentality? How do we create community? How do we give back to community? How do we support each other? We can be very isolated as business owners, not sure where to go, not sure where to belong, not sure how to plug in. Providers is a great place to do that.
So what I really like is that we're all purposely being fractured, we're being worn out, we're being tired out, and meanwhile, these giant shifts are changing. Things are being deregulated at the speed of light. The reason you regulate them is because while most people behave, a couple don't. So you have to come up with structures that keep people from stealing everything under you. Um, in businesses right now, where nobody can even say in 1 month what it's going to look like. Is there going to be a tariff? Is there going to be this? Is there going to be that? You're dealing with fellows who are also in a state of endless freak out. And instead of just selling everything out, you guys are staying the course and reminding each other what the whole point is. And this is cool because without it, we all give up. And then they, whoever they are, take over everything.
Everybody wants cheap airfare, but where do you find it? Well, you call low-cost airlines because they specialize in cheap flights, in discount hotel rooms, in cheap car rentals, and with the best price guarantee. Often 75% off. 901-235-1795. 901-235-1795. 901-235-1795. 901-235-1795.
Yes, that is exactly what's happening. There's so many changes in the business environment, and people aren't sure where to turn. There's all of these tools, these new tools. There's tariffs, there's regulation, there's no regulation. People are just uncertain about how to navigate this changing landscape. So, I always think we should just dial into what's happening, dial into what's recent, get into the new tools, see what's happening, see how it can support you. In my world, we think about how do we automate that? How do we implement automations? How do we use the recent tools, AI tools, to keep ourselves on track? So it's very important to just get clear about what's happening, surround yourself with smart people, good people, supportive people, and then also what are the tools that support you in making sure that your world aligns with the things that you want to accomplish.
So to that end, and this is what's cool, is one of the things that you've done that was interesting to me is you've taken AI, which terrifies most people because it is the ultimate big brother, and it is being weaponized in gigantic ways, whether it's Palantir or any other permutation, giant government contracts, Mr. Musk basically owning all the satellite systems, merging his AI with SpaceX to create a universe of floating surveillance satellites around the planet. All of this stuff. So people have a very Huxleyan view of AI, but you, Rick Hayhurst, have flipped AI around to actually go find cool people as opposed to it trying to find us. That's a different thing. Tell us about it.
Well, we try to look for people who are looking for us. So, from a really kind of broad brush, looking at a broad overview, we're trying to connect with people who are looking for us, who are like us, who want to do business with us, who want to hang out with us. And so we can use AI to look for audiences who are actually looking for us, people who align with our ideas, people who align with the kinds of activities that we're up to in life, including business, including social life, finding the right ice cream,
Which is
all this
everything.
stuff, which is everything. I'm a fan of the custard,
I'm a fan of the mint with chocolate chips. I'm also a fan of the premium chocolate chip, even though, whatever's left of your heart, I mean, it's not good for you, but damn. And have you noticed how ice cream is served in single increment sizes, half gallons? Like you go to Europe, they don't serve it in a half gallon. And I would like to market ice cream now with a wooden trowel, just for ease and efficiency.
Smart move, less trips to the store. We can just drop some dry ice underneath of it and keep it all frozen. Much easier to share with our friends. Gather round.
Well, we've just created a new product, but it's not good for people. So never mind. It's just fantasy. We're running out of time, but give us where can we find what you're doing, because you're really on the cutting edge of rebuilding society, but rebuilding society in modern times, not taking us back 150 years. That's never going to work. It's not like AI is going to go away because we wish it to. It's not like Walmart is going to go away because they have, work ethics or social ethics that we don't care for, or they're too big and have taken over the boutique stores or Starbucks. It's not like that. The fact is we are where we are, and living where we are and making the best out of it is your expertise. Where do we find what you're doing?
Ruthie.io, is the simplest way to look at some very simple tools. How we can immediately respond to people who are looking for us. The biggest concern people have around AI, and on the one hand, is that it's taking over the world, meaning replacing humans. And we don't think about replacing humans as much as we think about leveling humans up. We didn't lose the humans when we brought the tractor in to society. We rather leveled those humans up. So when you think about the concerns related to AI, and it's overwhelming, there's so many tools. How does it work? How does it function? What does it mean for me? We come into organizations and to associations, and we just talk to people about what's in it for you, and how does it work for you, and looking at custom solutions and some basic ways of bringing these things together and making it work seamlessly. It isn't going anywhere. The gift for all of us is to learn as much as we can and to kind of decipher what's noise, what's not, what's useful, what's not, how can I be safe in this environment, all of that, those sort of like the morose in the background.
Thank you. Thank you. I really appreciate it, Rick. We are regrettably out of time, but that's Rick Hayhurst, Senior Leader with Provisors, Ruthie.io. He's actually created a happy AI that is there to help. So you can learn more. I want to thank you, Renee Yawarski, by the way, our technical director and genius attorney, who also clerked for the former Supreme Court when it was Supreme, not white Supreme, but just regular Supreme, like the Supremes, and also the great Will in the control room of KPFK, and you, most importantly, the listener. You and me, we are one. And I appreciate it. And next week, you're going to get the real Carrie Harrison Cool School. We're going to break down how the Nazis pulled it all off. Wow. It's going to be good, clean fun, and I look forward to seeing you then.
How'd it happen?
She showed up dead on arrival.
This never gets easier.
It does when you call CarShield before your car breaks down. Look at these prices. The camshaft, transmission, engine.
Don't people know? A plan through CarShield could protect up to 5,000 parts and systems.
You hate to see it.
An out-of-warranty car is going to break down eventually.
Right, which is why they need a plan through CarShield.
Best of all, you'll get access to CarShield's concierge service, who can even help you find a mechanic near you.
They're notifying the family.
Poor guy. He doesn't even know what's coming.
Another victim of senselessly expensive repair bills. Can't save them all.
But we can keep trying. Didn't have to end this way. If he'd have just called CarShield before his car broke down.
Exactly.
CarShield has an A rating with the Better Business Bureau and was voted America's most trusted auto protection company. It's time to call CarShield now. Call 800-786-8390. 800-786-8390. Call 800-786-8390.